All right, great. Hey, we're live. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack. I'm broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown. And it is a semi-cloudy, sunny day. It's one of those almost spring-like days. Good ocean breeze we have coming out of the south. And it's great to be with you this afternoon. You know what I love about doing this Massachusetts show? It's just so easy. It's just so, this show is so easy. It like writes itself. The hypocrisy in Massachusetts politics, especially since it's like a one-party state, it's just so incredibly easy to do this show. It just basically it just unfolds amongst in front of yourself. It's just fantastic. So right out of the gate, what we're looking at from this perspective is who's now responsible, right? And at the top of who's responsible for Rachel Rollins, we have the Globe, Elizabeth Warren, and Ed Markey. All of them, plus the rest of the uniparty Democrat establishment here in Massachusetts, was completely on board with Rachel Rollins and her soft on crime agenda when she first ran for district attorney, what was that, in 2018? So now that the bleep has hit the fan, and I know now the Globe, Elizabeth Warren, and Ed Markey are all looking for somebody else to blame because that's how it works in the swamp, right? And so right off the bat this morning, we have this article from the Globe. Rollins' troubles blowback on Warren and Markey, who pushed her nomination. And they did push her nomination. But understand, under no circumstance is the Globe going to accept any accountability for pushing Rollins on Suffolk County or on Massachusetts as a whole as the U.S. attorney. Right? The Globe's not responsible for that. The Globe, oh gosh, no. Hell no. Being the Globe means you don't have to be responsible for anything, right? That's exactly what it means. Although I did fire a reporter about a week ago, which was great, for basically she made up the story about, or made up part of the story, or fabricated, or part of the MBTA managers don't live in Massachusetts story. But other than that, for the most part, being the Globe means you don't have to apologize for anything. So they woke up yesterday and like, oh, we got to blame somebody. Oh, well, we're obviously going to blame Markey and Elizabeth Warren, who deserve a heap of blame for this whole Rollins soft on crime disaster, election interference situation that we have right now. But don't let Markey get caught up in that because Markey's, he's an old type Paul. He understands when it's time to fish or cut bait. And Markey, in this article, and thank you for whoever tweeted this out because I don't actually have a Globe subscription. I stopped subscribing to the Globe when they started to call me a racist back in 2020. Markey highlighted the White House's role in her final selection and when asked about his lapses in reviewing her nomination instead of his and Warren's. It's the White House's fault, Markey says, not his fault. How could it possibly be Ed Markey's fault? We sent names over to the White House for them to do the vetting, and so we were reliant upon the White House vetting, Markey told the Globe Thursday. It was determined by the process that she was qualified. So the Globe is firing at Markey and Warren. Markey's firing at the White House. It's like they're all in the same they're all in the same, what do they call that? Foxhole. They're all in the same foxhole and they're all shooting at each other. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's just absolutely great. You'll remember that back in the day when Rollins got appointed, Markey and Warren issued a joint statement which said, we were glad to recommend District Attorney Rollins to serve as U.S. Attorney in the District of Massachusetts. And today we are delighted that the Senate has voted to confirm her in that role. So I'm sorry, Ed. Is it that you recommended her Or is it that it was the White House's fault? I'm not sure, right? Because everyone seems to be blaming the other person. You couldn't possibly be responsible, Ed Markey, or the Globe, or Elizabeth Warren, right? None of you could be responsible. This is somebody else's responsibility. And actually, we have the state rep from Somerville coming up with a theory. What's her name here? Erica, and I'm going to, no disrespect here, I just don't know how to pronounce your name. Udahoven? I'm going to just go with that. Forgive me, Erica. No offense, I did mispronounce your name, I'm sure. I've been searching for words about this devastation. Thank you for speaking truth to power, giving us language on the system coming down to our sister in service. Oh, God, I hate that phrase. Sister in service. She's not going to be in service much longer. She's resigning this afternoon. She was too effective, too ingenious, brought too much justice, and they came for her. Does this state representative read the news? Rachel Rollins violated some of the most basic tenets of being a U.S. attorney and interfered with the local election to succeed her as Suffolk County District Attorney. She's not a victim. She's the perp. She's not a victim. She's the perp. Andrea Free Her James. Okay. This Twitter user is all about getting every female out of prison. Not that they could actually define what a woman is, but they want to get every female out of prison. I'm not afraid to speak out against the modern day lynching of Rachel Rollins. We work within a plantation criminal legal framework that doesn't care how high you've reached professionally as progressive black women. You see, it's racist. It's racist that Rachel Rollins got caught influencing an election. I don't understand why you guys don't catch on to that. Why didn't Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren say that? They will come for you and get you. You must be brave. It's all a big racist conspiracy. Amazing how they're all firing at each other in the foxhole, which is exactly what's happening in Boston politics, Massachusetts politics this weekend, and especially amongst the people that are most liable for bringing Rachel Rollins in her insanely soft on crime. Remember the we're not going to prosecute list? 15 things, including not going to prosecute distribution of drug. Remember that? Yeah, that's all brought to you by the Globe and Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren. How do you think Rachel Rollins got elected to be Suffolk County DA to begin with, along with her parallel rise of pro rock thrower, right? Monica Cannon Grant. Now, that brings us to Bob Ray, who I believe, or Bob Way, I should say, who I believe is over at Channel 7. He tracked down Mayor Wu. This looks to be on Boston City Hospital. Looks to be some type of bicycle event in the background. And he asks her whether Arroyo should resign. Now, Arroyo seems to be teed up as the much more likely next victim to the slaughter here, because it was Arroyo who absolutely positively encouraged Rollins to launch a politically motivated U.S. attorney investigation against his political opponent in the 2022 district attorney race just last fall, or just last summer, I should say. So here's Wu dodging the question of whether or not Arroyo should resign. Let's see if we bring this up for you here.
Believe Councilor Arroyo should step down at this time?
This is a sad situation all around, and we are we're 4 or 5 months away from an election anyway, and I think people have the chance for elected officials. Our number one source of accountability is being on the ballot, and
she wants to leave it to the ballot, right? She's not going to actually answer the question whether he should step down. She's like, oh, let's just leave it to the ballot. Well, you know what? there's a pretty good chance he'll be unopposed anyways, right? And she's like, why should I take a stand against Arroyo? I'm just going to say, leave it to the ballot. Why should I stand up for ethics?
And commitments and positions out to the public. So that is the democratic process.
So at this point, you would leave it up to the voters to decide on that front.
Yes, we need to the first and most important thing is the city council needs to finish.
The first and most important thing is the redistricting. So yesterday I tweeted out this speculation that one of the reasons why not many of the councilors are actually circling the wagons against Arroyo is because they might need him in some way or part relative to the redistricting, which is all Wu is saying is important now.
We are days away from having to make some very unfortunate decisions that we're hoping to avoid, such as potentially needing to push back the election date or make the trade-off between the availability of in-person early voting and potentially not having that because the timeline is starting to get crunched. And so at this moment, no one knows what districts the district councilors will even be running in. And so I know there's a working session today, later in the afternoon, to consider now formats that are on the table. I think we're making good progress, but we really need, first and foremost, this to be finished so that potential candidates and voters understand what the choices will be this fall. And then our elections department is prepared to work as quickly as possible to make sure that
the bottom line is she's not going to call for his resignation. Now, another thing that I speculated yesterday is that maybe she's not going to call for his resignation because she was also text messaging him, encrypted or otherwise, giving him advice on the campaign. And is it possible that Wu was actually also texting Rollins, right? Because they all were supportive of Arroyo in the election. So it's very possible that the reason why Wu isn't, and she's usually kind of a high on the horse process Democrat that, she let's do the ethical thing. Well, maybe she's not saying that because she's afraid that Arroyo's got the receipts, right? I hate that phrase, but let's just use it here. Boston City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo responds to calls for his resignation after Rachel Rollins report. Says he's not resigning. No, why would he resign? This is from they're going to play.
People always ask me, what's the best?
This is from, we'll come back to this, Channel 7, who actually did some reporting and went out to Arroyo's house in Hyde Park to track him down to interview him. Way to go, Channel 7. I don't know if I have seen
done full investigations and
similar thing for Rollins.
Them now. Neither one of them accused me of any wrongdoing. I've done nothing wrong, and so I'm absolutely not resigning.
That's a lie. He has done something wrong. It might not have been illegal, but it was highly unethical to ask a sitting U.S. attorney to launch a politically motivated investigation against your political opponent in a pending election. It wasn't wrong. It was absolutely wrong. It might not have been a crime, but is that our standard? Is that the standard that we have to wait for somebody to commit a crime?
Boston City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo refusing to resign as some call for him to step down because of his ties to outgoing U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins. Rollins is leaving her post after a federal ethics investigation.
The report claims Councilor Arroyo exchanged texts with Rollins and that she tried to sway an election in his favor. The night team's Grant Herms is live outside Boston City Hall with more at 10. Grant.
We met up with Arroyo at his Hyde Park home. It's the first time he said anything to anyone about these calls for him to resign in what has been a 48-hour whirlwind.
I'm absolutely not resigning.
Boston City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo defiant in his first interview since critics and colleagues have called for him to step down. Arroyo's campaign for Suffolk County DA was a major part of the federal investigation into U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins. The DOJ says Rollins and Arroyo exchanged dozens of messages about his campaign and about leaks of harmful information about his opponent, DA Kevin Hayden. He says he did nothing wrong, and the DOJ reports show that too.
the report was very clear that I'd never asked her to do these things, and I never knew that these things were happening.
That's also a lie. I mean, the report is crystal clear that he was pressuring her to launch an investigation. So, I mean, this guy just keeps on lying and lying. It's just amazing. Now, finally, we have another city councilor who is issuing a statement. Ed Flynn, please find my statement regarding troubling reports in recent days and their impact upon the city of Boston. Now, he doesn't have actually the testicular fortitude to actually name his fellow councilor, Arroyo. So he doesn't do that. But we do have his statement here. It is brief. As an elected official, people of Boston deserve strong and ethical leadership when placing us in positions of public trust. Recent reports and troubling information has once again cast a shadow over the Boston City Council, causing a major distraction to both the budget and the redistricting process. Do they keep on coming back to this redistricting process, which was unconstitutional, just to remind you. That's why the judge threw it out. This is hurting our city at a critical time, and the residents of Boston deserve better. So, somewhat of a soft pedal call there, Ed. If you're gonna say it, Ed, just come out and say it. Also, I would say Erin Murphy, her statement was also just a little bit softer. Like, she said that he should consider resignation rather than her actually, calling for the resignation. But again, I think the real issue, why Wu hasn't called, and I think if Wu called for his resignation, then it would be over. But why hasn't it Wu called? Because as I said yesterday, is it possible that he got text messages from Wu regarding the election interference? And the more you listen to that interview from Wu on Boston City Hall Plaza yesterday, the more you understand that the theory that Ricardo Arroyo has text messages from Wu that somehow play into this scandal and that Wu doesn't want those to come out, that seems like a stronger and stronger theory, right? Totally does. Now, in the end, Elizabeth Warren, the Globe, Ed Markey, the machine will continue to roll on, right? They'll kick her to the curb and Rollins to the curb. They may kick Arroyo to the curb or may not. But Rollins will get some job at a law school. She'll come back as a victim, having learned her lesson. And she'll be back in 18 months, 2 years, or something like that, for sure. And she'll be welcome back. She'll be hailed as a conquering hero. Last, we finished today with some additional media fallout. And this is from Dan Kennedy at GBH. So why we're talking about GBH, and it's more about GBH than it is about Dan Kennedy, he just happens to be in the middle of it, is that GBH had a legal analyst, Professor Medwed. And he is the professor, GBH confirms that, mentioned in this massive 161-page report from the Inspector General at the Department of Justice. And Medwed is offering what is supposedly objective legal advice on GBH Air. Meanwhile, he's writing a letter, undisclosed, to Rachel Rollins calling for an investigation into Arroyo's opponent. No, he's not an objective legal analyst. He's a player in the campaign behind the scenes to help Arroyo. So the reason why we picking on Dan Kennedy here is not because we don't like Dan. I've never met Dan Kennedy. I'm sure he's a pleasant person. But he also has the intersectionality of the fact that he was a GBH contributor. Now he's just a friend of the station. And he's a Northeastern professor, and so is Professor Daniel Medwed. He was a GBH contributor up until a couple of days ago when he got suspended, and Medwed is also a professor at Northeastern University. The tangled web we weave. So Dan Kennedy is supposed to be the shaman when it comes to Boston media ethics. That's what he promotes himself as, right? All those years on Beat the Press, remember the program? All those years, he's the weather vane about whether journalists are doing the right thing in Boston. What he really is, and what he always has been, is a soft pedal apologist for the mainstream media. So here's his response, indirect. Earlier today, I tweeted out, Dan Kennedy hasn't commented on his fellow professor at Northeastern getting suspended from GBH. So here's Dan's response. Just learning that the Northeastern law professor, Daniel Medwood, has been suspended by GBH News. And he wants you to know, I don't know, Dan Medwood. I'm not going to comment on a colleague. I'm no longer at GBH, though I'm a friend of the station, an occasional talking head. But hell no, am I not going to comment on a colleague who he doesn't even know? And this guy here, of course Dan's not going to comment on anything that might hurt his paycheck. The fearlessness is impressive, isn't it? Yeah. So, Dan, you're supposed to be like the Howard Kurtz of Boston media, right? Reliable sources. You're at the intersection at GBH Northeastern you're supposed to be the watchdog of the watchdogs. You're not doing your job. All right, so I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown in Massachusetts. Have a great day.